In this video, we are going to finish up the concepts of Chapter 2, Part 1 by looking at mathematical operations and significant figures. So at times, we're going to be doing measurements in the laboratory in which we need to do mathematical operations that include addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. When it comes to this, the measure number that we obtained, we need to take into account those digits in the measure number and apply rules in order to show a final answer. These are the rules for significant figures in mathematical operations. We are going to start by looking specifically at what happens when we're doing addition and subtraction. In addition or subtraction, the final answer is written so it has the same number of decimal places. Let me highlight that. As the measurements with the fewest decimal places. The reason why we do this is that remember that when we have measure numbers, this is attached to the resolution of the instruments that we are utilizing. Technically, we usually attach resolution with the number of digits that we can observe. So when we are adding digits because of measurements with different instruments, that final answer is going to show the measurement that had the least resolution. So let's take, for example, that we are going to be adding the following measure numbers. In 2.012, we have specifically 3 decimal places. My shorthand for decimal places is DP. In the second digit, 60.09, we have 2 decimal places. In the third measurement, we have 1 decimal place. So even though our calculator shows us 66.02 as the result of adding these 3 numbers, understand that rounding is necessary. In the instructions, sometimes you're not going to see the word rounded, but it is implied that you need to round. But our final answer needs to show that rule for the numbers that carry meaning. So even though our calculator display is 66.120, our final answer is 66.1 because this rounded number has 1 decimal place. And that is in the case that we are adding or subtracting measure numbers. What happens when we are multiplying or dividing measured numbers? In multiplication or division, the final answer is written as it has the same number of significant figures. Let me highlight that. As the measurement with the fewest significant figures. Let's see an example. Here we're multiplying 2 measure numbers. We have 24.66 centimeters being multiplied by 0.35 centimeters. The first set of digits has 4 significant figures. The second set of digits has 2 significant figures. When we multiply them, our calculator display gives us all of these numbers, 8.631, but because we need to round to the correct number of digits that carry meaning, since the lowest significant figures in our measurements is 2, then we need to round that calculator display to 2. So that means that our final answer is 8.6 centimeters squared. Let's now do some example problems so we can see this. In page 65 in the textbook, we have problems 2.29 and 2.30. In 2.29, it states, perform each of the following calculations and give an answer with the correct number of decimal places. When it comes to this, the instructions are telling you already that you need to pay attention to decimal places. Understand that in exams and quizzes, the instructions are not going to direct you to decimal places or significant figures. You should know the results of application of the rules depending on the operation. So on letter A, we have 45.48 centimeters added to 8.057 centimeters. When we're adding these two digits, the unit is going to be centimeters. When we take our calculator and we type in 45.48 and 8.057, the calculator display gives us a digit of 3.537 centimeters. But because of the application of how to correctly take these measurements and show the digits that carry meaning, we have to look at decimal places. This measurement has 2 decimal places. This one has 3 decimal places. So we need to round this to 2 decimal places. So our final answer is going to be 53.54 centimeters. Remember that this applies to addition or subtraction. So take a moment and determine the correct answer for letter D on problem 2.29. Let's now practice with the problems of 2.30. In 2.30, it says, perform each of the calculations and give an answer with the correct number of decimal places. But understand that because here we have multiplication and division, we're technically not going to be looking at the decimal places. We're going to be looking at the significant figures of each of these measurements, okay? So take a moment and determine what is the correct number of significant figures for each of the digits on letter A. For the digits on letter A, the first numbers have 5 significant figures, while the next set of digits have also 5 significant figures. Let's just put all of these numbers in the calculator. We have 236.02 divided by 108.01. The result that the calculator shows us is 2.18516804. Now, that is not our final answer. Taking into account that each of these digits has 5 significant figures, we need to round to 5 significant figures that calculator display. So taking that into consideration, my final answer is going to be 2.1852. Practice by doing letter C.